She was humiliated and fired, but days later returned as the new boss. Martha Higgins was breathing heavily as tears streamed down her face. What had just happened there, in front of all the hotel employees, still felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Derek Sterling, the general manager, had yelled at her for nearly 10 minutes, pointing his finger in her face and accusing her of stealing a diamond necklace from the presidential suite. In front of housekeepers, front desk clerks, security guards, and guests passing through the lobby, he ripped off her badge and ordered her to leave the Royal Majestic Hotel immediately. "You're a thief, Martha," were his last shouted words. "And I'll make sure no decent hotel in New York City ever hires you again." What nobody there knew was that Martha depended on that job not just to survive, but to pay for the medical treatment of her 16-year-old daughter, Chloe, who had been hospitalized for 2 weeks with a serious heart condition. Walking through the hotel's marble hallway with trembling legs, Martha carried only a plastic bag with her personal belongings. 42 years of life, the last 15 devoted to that place. 15 years cleaning luxury suites, treating millionaire guests with courtesy and respect, waking up at 5 in the morning every day. The other workers looked at her with a mix of pity and fear. They knew she was honest, hard-working, but no one had the courage to defend her. Derek's power over everyone was absolute. "Martha, wait a moment." The voice came from an elegant lady with neatly styled grey hair, sitting in one of the lobby armchairs. She stood up with difficulty, leaning on a discreet cane. "Did you see what happened?" "What?" asked Martha, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "I saw everything, my dear." The woman held out a simple card. "Call me tomorrow morning. My name is Eleanor Vanderbilt." Martha took the card, not quite understanding. She thanked her and left the hotel through the employee entrance, the same door she had always used for 15 years. Only when she got to the bus stop did she read what was written. Eleanor Vanderbilt, business consulting, and a phone number. That night, in the small room she shared with her daughter in Brooklyn Heights, Martha couldn't sleep. Chloe was in the hospital, and the medical bills were piling up. Without a job, how would she pay for everything? How would she explain to her daughter that she had lost her job over something she didn't do? The next morning, with trembling hands, she dialed the number on the card. "Hello, Eleanor Vanderbilt." "Hi, Mrs. Eleanor. It's Martha from the hotel. You told me to call." "Ah, yes, Martha. Can you come to my office today at 2 in the afternoon? It's in Century City. I'll send you the address by text." The office was in a modern commercial building, very different from what Martha expected. Eleanor received her in a simple but organized room. "Please, have a seat. Would you like some coffee?" "Thank you, Mrs. Eleanor, but you don't even know me. Why do you want to help me?" Eleanor poured 2 coffees and sat down across from Martha. "Because I wasn't at the hotel by chance, Martha. I've been working as a consultant for many years, and sometimes I do discreet evaluations of staff and management. Yesterday I was there observing. Observing what? The team's behavior, the quality of service, the management. And I saw much more than I expected." Martha didn't understand where the conversation was going. "How many years have you worked at the hotel?" 15 years, Mrs. Eleanor. I started as a cleaning assistant and became a housekeeper." "And in those 15 years, how many times did you miss work?" Martha thought for a moment. "I think about 5 or 6 times, only when Chloe, my daughter, was sick." "Any warnings or guest complaints?" "Never, Mrs. Eleanor. On the contrary, I've actually received written praise from several guests. I keep everything at home." Eleanor made some notes in a notebook. "Martha, I need you to tell me exactly what happened yesterday. Every detail." "Well, I was cleaning suite 1204, the presidential. It was morning, around 10 o'clock. The guest, a blonde woman, elegant, had gone to the hotel spa. I always clean when the guests are out." "Go on." "When I finished cleaning, I went down to the supply closet to get fresh towels. Then Mr. Derek came running, said the guest was screaming that her necklace had been stolen. He told me to go back to the suite. And then, when we got there, the woman was hysterical, saying the necklace was gone. Mr. Derek started searching everything, and suddenly—" Martha stopped, tears welling up again. "Go ahead, dear." "He opened the desk drawer, And there was the necklace. But I swear to God, Mrs. Eleanor, I did not take that necklace. I've never taken anything from anyone in my life. Eleanor kept taking notes. What was that drawer like? What do you mean? Did you clean it? Of course. I clean everything. I always clean all the drawers, wipe inside, organize the guests' belongings. And was the necklace there when you cleaned? Martha paused to think. It was a question no one had asked. No, it wasn't, I'm sure. Actually, the drawer was empty when I cleaned it. There were only some hotel papers. Eleanor stopped writing and looked directly at Martha. Are you absolutely certain about that? Yes, I am, Mrs. Eleanor. I always check if there's any guest belongings before cleaning. It's hotel procedure. Martha, I have a proposal for you. I need someone to organize some old documents in my office. It's temporary work, but I can pay the same salary you were getting at the hotel. Do you accept? Martha couldn't believe what she was hearing. Of course I accept, Mrs. Eleanor. But why? You barely know me. Because I have a feeling there's more going on in that hotel than meets the eye, and maybe you can help me find out. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following days, Martha began working in Eleanor's office, organizing boxes full of old documents from various companies. It was a different kind of work, but she put in the same dedication as always. Eleanor had insisted she tell everything she knew about the hotel's inner workings, names of employees, routines, problems she had observed over the years. Mrs. Eleanor, can I ask a question? Of course, Martha. Have you ever worked at the hotel before? Eleanor stopped shuffling papers and looked at her. I never worked there, but I know the place's history well. Then why are you so interested in what happened to me? Because I suspect you weren't the first employee to be wronged by Derek Sterling. That answer intrigued Martha. How did Eleanor know that? In the third week of work, while organizing old contracts, Martha found something strange. They were documents from the Royal Majestic Hotel itself, dated from previous years. Mrs. Eleanor, these papers are from the hotel where I worked. Eleanor quickly approached. What papers? Supplier contracts, financial reports. Why do you have these? Eleanor took a deep breath and sat down. Martha, it's time I was honest with you. I'm not just a business consultant. Martha's heart raced. What do you mean? I am Eleanor Vanderbilt, owner of Vanderbilt Enterprises, and the Royal Majestic Hotel is part of my business group. Martha dropped the papers she was holding. You're the owner of the hotel? I'm the majority shareholder, yes. But I leave the management to hired managers. At least I used to, until I started receiving strange reports about the management. What kind of reports? A drop in service quality, employee complaints, financial irregularities. So I decided to do a personal, undercover evaluation. Martha was in shock. The woman who had helped her was the very owner of the hotel she had been fired from. So you were there to spy on me? No, Martha. I was there to observe Derek Sterling, and what I saw left me very worried. What did you see? I saw a man humiliating an exemplary employee in front of everyone, without even conducting a proper investigation. I saw fear in the eyes of the other employees, and I saw something else. What? Eleanor went to a cabinet and picked up an envelope. These are photos I took discreetly that day. Look at this one. It was a photo of the blonde woman leaving the elevator on the floor of the presidential suite, about 15 minutes after Martha had finished cleaning. And this one. Another photo showing the same woman talking privately with Derek in the hallway, away from the other employees. Do you think? I think you were the victim of a setup, Martha. And now I need to prove it. In the following days, Eleanor explained to Martha that she suspected several irregularities in the hotel's management. Employees fired without just cause, suppliers favored without proper bidding, financial reports that didn't add up. The problem is that Derek has allies on the board of directors. I can't just fire him without concrete evidence. And what can I do to help? You know the inner workings of the hotel very well. I need you to help me identify all the irregularities you've noticed over the last few years. Martha began to make a detailed list. She remembered employees who had been fired under suspicious circumstances, complaints that were never resolved, strange changes in procedures. "Mrs. Eleanor, there's something that always bothered me." "What?" "There's a front desk employee, Rachel, who always seemed very nervous when Derek was around. One day she even cried in the bathroom because he yelled at her in front of guests." "Do you have her contact?" "Yes, I do. We used to talk sometimes during breaks." Eleanor asked Martha to contact Rachel, but discreetly. Maybe she knew about other situations. When Martha called, Rachel was surprised and worried. "Martha, I heard what happened. Everyone is talking about it. It's an injustice." "Rachel, can I meet you to talk? It's important." They met at a coffee shop far from the hotel. Rachel was visibly nervous. "Martha, I wanted to defend you that day, but I didn't have the courage." "I understand, Rachel. No one was to blame, but I need to ask you something. Have you ever seen anything strange happen at the hotel?" Rachel looked around as if someone might be listening. "Why do you want to know?" "Because maybe I wasn't the only person harmed by Derek." Rachel took a deep breath and began to speak. "Martha, there's a lot of wrong stuff going on there. Derek forces us to lie on reports, alter occupancy data, make up excuses to fire employees." "Like what?" "Last month he told me to record the occupancy as 80%, but it was actually 60. And when I asked why, he said it was higher-ups' orders." "Orders from whom?" "He said they were from the board, but I once heard him on the phone talking about splitting something with someone." Martha knew this information was important. "Rachel, do you know the woman who was in the presidential suite on the day I was fired?" "The blonde?" "Oh, she wasn't an ordinary guest." "What do you mean?" "She's been coming to the hotel for months, always stays in the presidential suite, but never pays a cent. Derek authorizes it all. That information was crucial." Martha rushed back to Eleanor's office. "Mrs. Eleanor, I found out something important." She told her everything Rachel had revealed. Eleanor took detailed notes. "Martha, this blonde woman could be the key to everything. I need to find out who she is." "How are you going to do that?" "I have access to the hotel's records. I'll check all of her stays." The next day, Eleanor arrived at the office with a serious expression. "Martha, you need to sit down for this." "What is it, Mrs. Eleanor?" "The blonde woman's name is Victoria Vance, and she's not just an acquaintance of Derek's." "Then what is she?" "She's his mistress. And more than that, she works as an independent consultant, but she receives regular payments from a hotel supplier company." Martha couldn't believe it. "So you're saying—" "I'm saying there's probably a corruption scheme at the hotel, and you were used as a scapegoat to divert attention." The puzzle pieces were starting to fall into place. Derek needed someone to blame when the irregularities were discovered, and Martha, being a regular employee, would be the perfect target. "But Mrs. Eleanor, how do we prove it?" "I need more evidence, and for that, I'll need your help one more time." Eleanor explained that she would need someone trustworthy to go back to the hotel and try to gather more information. But since Martha had been fired, that would be impossible. Unless what, Mrs. Eleanor?" "Unless you go back in a different role." Martha didn't understand. "As the owner, I have the right to conduct surprise audits at the hotel, and I can bring assistance." "You want me to come as your assistant?" "Exactly. But we need to be very careful. If Derek suspects anything, he could destroy the evidence." The idea was risky, but it was the only way to get the necessary proof. The following Monday, Eleanor called the hotel and scheduled an audit meeting for Thursday. She said she would come with her technical team. "Martha, are you ready for this?" "Yes, I am, Mrs. Eleanor. I want to clear my name and show everyone who Derek Sterling really is." On Thursday morning, they arrived at the hotel. Martha was wearing a borrowed suit from Eleanor and glasses to disguise her appearance a bit. She carried an executive briefcase and pretended to be a hotel management specialist. Derek greeted them in the lobby, all courteous and cordial. He didn't recognize Martha right away. "Mrs. Vanderbilt, it's an honor to have you here in person." "Thank you, Derek. This is my consultant, Martha Higgins, an expert in operational efficiency." When Derek heard the name, he looked more closely at Martha. She saw the recognition in his eyes, but he masked it. "Pleasure to meet you." The meeting began in the administration office. Eleanor asked questions about occupancy, revenue, operational costs. Derek answered confidently, showing well-organized reports. But Martha was paying attention to other details. She noticed that some documents were oddly dated, and the numbers didn't match what she remembered observing during her years working there. "Derek, I'd like to see the guest records for the last 6 months." "Of course, Mrs. Vanderbilt." "Martha, can you accompany him to the archive?" It was the opportunity they had been waiting for. In the archive, Martha discreetly photographed some documents with her cell phone while Derek was distracted. After the meeting, they returned to Eleanor's office. "Did you get anything?" "I did, Mrs. Eleanor. Take a look at this." Martha showed the photos of the documents. There were records of free stays for Victoria Vance, personally authorized by Derek. And what's more, supplier invoices with prices way above market rates. That's evidence of mismanagement, but it still doesn't prove corruption. "So what do we do now?" Eleanor thought for a moment. "Let's talk to more employees discreetly. Maybe someone has seen something more concrete." Martha suggested talking to Dolores, one of the hotel's longest-serving housekeepers. "Dolores has worked there for over 20 years. If anyone knows anything, it's her." They found Dolores at the end of her shift, near the bus stop. "Martha, honey, I've missed you. I heard about the injustice they did to you." "Dolores, this is Mrs. Eleanor. She's helping me find out the truth about what happened." Dolores looked warily at Eleanor. "You can trust her, Dolores. She wants to help." Dolores said that she had seen Derek several times receiving envelopes from suppliers, always far from the security cameras, and that once she overheard him talking on the phone about percentages and partnerships. "There's one thing that has always bothered me," said Dolores. "Derek always fires the longest-serving employees, the ones who know how the hotel runs. It seems like he only wants new people who don't really understand how things work." That information was important. Eleanor began to see a pattern in Derek's behavior. "Dolores, do you remember any other employees who were fired under suspicious circumstances?" "I remember Beverly, who worked in the stockroom. She was fired because she was supposedly stealing cleaning supplies, but everyone knew she was honest." "And what did she do in the stockroom?" "She controlled the inventory of everything coming in and out. She knew all the suppliers and all the prices." Another piece of the puzzle. Derek was getting rid of employees who could uncover his schemes. Eleanor decided it was time for a bolder strategy. "Martha, I'm going to call an extraordinary meeting of the administrative board. It's time to present everything we've found." "Do you think it will work?" "I don't know, but it's our only chance to get justice." The following week, Eleanor summoned all the board members for an emergency meeting. She said she had uncovered serious irregularities in the hotel's management. Derek was visibly nervous when he heard about the meeting. "Any specific problem, Mrs. Vanderbilt?" "We'll discuss that at the meeting, Derek." The meeting took place in a conference room at the Vanderbilt Enterprises office. 5 board members were present, along with Eleanor, Martha, and Derek. Eleanor began by presenting the documents they had gathered. She showed Vanessa's free stays, the suspicious invoices, and the employee accounts. "This data suggests that there may be a corruption scheme at the hotel." Derek stood up nervously. "Mrs. Vanderbilt, that's a very serious accusation. I hope you have concrete evidence." "I do, Derek. And this is Martha Higgins, the employee you unjustly fired to divert attention from your irregularities." When the board members saw Martha, some seemed to recognize her. "Martha?" said one of them. "Aren't you the housekeeper who always got compliments from the guests?" "Yes, sir, I am." Derek tried to interrupt. "She was fired for just cause. She stole a necklace from a guest." "Derek," Eleanor said calmly, "the guest in question was your mistress, Victoria Vance, who has been staying at the hotel for free for months." The silence in the room was total. Derek turned red with anger. That proves nothing," Eleanor continued, presenting the evidence. "Rachel's reports about data tampering, Dolores's observations about the envelopes, the pattern of suspicious dismissals. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot who are just starting out." Now continuing, one of the board members, Mr. Albert Harrison, spoke up. "Derek, these are very serious accusations. What do you have to say in your defense?" Mr. Albert, this is a setup. This woman, he pointed at Martha, is making all this up because she was fired for cause. Then explain Victoria Vance's free stays, Eleanor asked. She's a tourism consultant. She was evaluating our services. For 6 months, for free, without any reports or formal contracts. Derek began to stammer. His explanations didn't make sense. Martha asked to speak. Can I say something? Eleanor nodded. Gentlemen, I worked at that hotel for 15 years. I never missed a day without reason, never had a complaint, always treated everyone with respect. On the day I was fired, I was absolutely certain that necklace wasn't in the drawer when I cleaned the suite. It could only have been placed there afterward. Why would anyone do that? Another board member asked. Because I knew the hotel's operations well. I knew the product prices. I knew the suppliers. I could tell when something was off. I was a threat to Mr. Derek's schemes. Derek stood up abruptly. I'm not going to sit here listening to these lies. 15 years of dedication to the hotel, and you believe an employee fired for theft. Sit down, Derek, Mr. Albert said with authority. This meeting isn't over. Eleanor presented more documents. She had discovered that Victoria's company was receiving payments from the hotel's suppliers, constituting a conflict of interest. And there's one more thing, Eleanor said. I checked the security footage from the day of Martha's alleged firing. Derek turned pale. What footage? The hallway cameras show Victoria entering the suite 15 minutes after Martha finished cleaning and leaving 5 minutes later, just before you showed up to check on the theft. The blow was precise. Derek had no way to defend himself. That doesn't prove she put the necklace there. It doesn't prove it, but it raises enough suspicion for a deeper investigation, and combined with all the other irregularities, it paints a very troubling picture. The board called for a recess to deliberate. Derek left the room nervously, talking on his cell phone. After an hour, the board members returned. Derek Sterling, said Mr. Albert, by unanimous decision of the board, you are suspended from your duties until a full audit of the hotel is conducted. And Mrs. Martha, the board would like to offer its sincerest apologies for what happened. Martha couldn't hold back her tears. Finally, the truth was being acknowledged. There's one last thing, Eleanor said. Martha, would you like to accept a temporary position as assistant hotel manager to help us with the administrative transition? Martha looked surprised. I accept, Mrs. Eleanor. Derek was furious. This is absurd. You're handing the hotel over to a maid. We're handing it over to an honest person who knows the hotel's operations inside out, Eleanor replied. In the following days, the audit revealed even more irregularities. Derek had embezzled over $300,000 through fraudulent contracts in the past 2 years. Victoria was also involved, receiving improper commissions from suppliers. Martha temporarily took over the hotel's operational management, with help from Eleanor and a team of consultants. The staff was surprised to see her return in a leadership role. Martha? Said Rachel in disbelief. You're back. Yes, I'm back, Rachel. And now we're going to work together to improve this place. Martha's first move was to gather all the staff to talk openly about the hotel's problems. Everyone, I know many of you have gone through difficult situations here. I want you to feel free to talk about any problem without fear of reprisals. Dolores was the first to speak. Martha, it's a joy to see you back. But how did a housekeeper become a manager? Dolores, I'm still the same person. The difference is that now I have the opportunity to use my experience to improve things for all of us. One of the front desk clerks, Stephen, raised his hand. Martha, what's going to happen to Derek? His case is being investigated by the audit. Our concern now is to make the hotel run as well as possible. In the first few weeks, Martha worked tirelessly to reorganize the procedures. She discovered many problems that Derek had created or ignored. The suppliers, for example, were charging above-market prices because they had special deals with the former manager. Martha renegotiated all contracts, saving 40% on operational costs. How did you know the prices were high? Asked Eleanor, impressed. 15 years cleaning suites taught me the value of every product, Mrs. Eleanor. I knew how much each towel, each amenity, each cleaning product cost. Martha also discovered that many talented employees were being underutilized. Rachel, for example, had a college degree in tourism, but was only working at the basic front desk. Rachel, how about taking over customer service coordination? Seriously, Martha, but I've never had that experience. You know all the guests, you know what they need, you speak well. You're the ideal person for the position. In a short time, the atmosphere at the hotel changed completely. The employees were more motivated, the guests noticed the improvement in service, and the financial results began to show. Eleanor was impressed by Martha's management skills. Martha, have you ever thought about taking a management course? I have, Mrs. Eleanor, but I never had the chance. With work and Chloe, how is your daughter, by the way? Better, thank God. The surgery was a success, and she's already going back to school. That's great. And how about if the company paid for college for you? Management or hospitality? Martha couldn't believe what she was hearing. You would do that? Martha, you've proven you have a natural talent for management. It would be an investment in the company itself. Meanwhile, the investigation into Derek progressed. Besides the financial misappropriations, it was discovered that he had fired at least 10 competent employees over the years, always making up false justifications. Victoria was also investigated and had to return all the money she received improperly. Their relationship ended when she found out that Derek was trying to put all the blame on her. One day, 3 months after Derek's dismissal, Martha was working in her new office when the front desk called. Martha, there's a man here wanting to talk to you. He says he's Derek Sterling. Martha took a deep breath. She knew this moment would come. You can send him up. Derek entered the office visibly dejected. He was thinner with dark circles under his eyes, wearing simple clothes instead of the expensive suits from before. Hi, Martha. Hi, Derek. Have a seat. He sat down on the other side of the desk, where she had once been humiliated by him. I came to apologize. Martha didn't expect that. What do you mean? I did a terrible thing to you. You didn't deserve to be treated that way. Why did you do that, Derek? He took a deep breath before answering. Because I was afraid. The irregularities were being questioned by the audit and I needed a scapegoat. You knew the hotel very well. You could have discovered the schemes. So you decided to destroy me. I was desperate, Martha. I had debts, pressures. I didn't think about the consequences for you. Martha watched him for a moment. She saw a broken man, very different from the powerful manager who had humiliated her. What do you want now, Derek? I'm looking for a job. It hasn't been easy. What happened here spread through the hotel industry. No one wants to hire me. And why are you telling me this? Because I know you're a good person. You always were. Even when I mistreated the staff, you kept your dignity. Martha was silent for a few moments. Derek, what you did to me was terrible. You almost destroyed my life and my daughter's. I know, and I'll carry that guilt forever. But I'm not like you. I don't believe in revenge. She picked up a piece of paper and started writing. Hey, what are you doing? A letter of recommendation. Derek's eyes widened. Martha, you don't have to do this. I don't have to, but I want to. You have serious flaws in character, but you also have professional qualities. I'll be honest in the letter, mentioning both sides. When she finished writing, she handed him the letter. Derek, this is your second chance. Use it wisely. He read the letter with tears in his eyes. Martha had highlighted his technical skills, but also mentioned his ethical issues and the need for behavioral change. Why are you doing this for me? Because forgiveness isn't about you, Derek. It's about me. About not letting hurt turn me into a bitter person. He stood up, clearly emotional. Thank you, Martha. You're a better person than I deserve. After he left, Martha thought about how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she was a humiliated, unemployed housekeeper. Now she was the manager of a luxury hotel, with professional recognition and the possibility of going to college. Eleanor knocked on the door. Martha, how did the conversation go? Tough, but necessary. He came to apologize. And you accepted? I did, and I even gave him a letter of recommendation. Eleanor smiled. I knew you would. How did you know? Because that's exactly what a true leader would do. Justice, but not revenge. That night, Martha returned home and found Chloe studying at the kitchen table. "Hi, Mom. How was work?" "It was good, sweetheart. And how were classes?" "Great. Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course, honey. I'm so proud of you. Seeing how you overcame all of this, how you managed to turn things around, you're my hero." Martha hugged her daughter tightly. All the tears, all the sleepless nights, all the suffering had been worth it. "Chloe, you know what?" "What?" "Mrs. Eleanor offered me a scholarship to study business administration." "Really? Mom, that's amazing. And you know what else? When I graduate, maybe we can have our own business someday." "Our own business? Why not? I've already learned a lot about hotel management. Who knows? Maybe we'll open a little inn down in Destin." "Mom, that would be incredible." They spent the night making plans for the future. For the first time in a long time, Martha felt that everything was possible. A few months later, at the closing ceremony of the hotel's administrative transition, Eleanor gave a speech to all the staff and guests. "Today we are here to celebrate not only the financial and operational recovery of our hotel, but mainly the victory of honesty and competence over corruption and abuse of power." She looked at Martha, who was beside her on the stage. "Martha Higgins taught us that it doesn't matter what your title or social position is. What matters is your character, your dedication, and your ability to make a difference." The applause was thunderous. Employees, suppliers, guests, and board members recognized the extraordinary transformation that had taken place. And it is with great pleasure that I announce that Martha has been made permanent general manager of the Royal Majestic Hotel. Her first decision will be to implement a professional training program for all employees because she believes everyone deserves a chance to grow. Martha approached the microphone, visibly emotional. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Eleanor, and thank you all. I want to say something. I haven't forgotten where I came from. I'm still the same person who was cleaning suites a few months ago. The difference is that now I have the responsibility of taking care of all of you." She paused, looking at the familiar faces in the audience. "I want this hotel to be a place where people feel respected and valued, regardless of their role, where talent is recognized and honesty is rewarded." Dolores shouted from the audience, "Well done, Martha. You deserve it." Other employees started applauding and shouting words of support. It was a moment of genuine joy and renewed hope. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, take the opportunity to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following months, under Martha's management, the hotel underwent a complete transformation. She implemented employee appreciation policies, training programs, and a system of constant feedback with guests. Rachel was promoted to customer service coordinator and excelled at creating personalized experiences for guests. Dolores became supervisor of the cleaning team and developed new quality protocols. The hotel's reputation improved dramatically. Online ratings went from 3.2 to 4.8 stars in just 6 months. Occupancy increased from 60 to 90%. Eleanor was impressed with the results. "Martha, how did you achieve such a fast transformation?" "Mrs. Eleanor, the answer is simple. I treated people the way I would like to be treated. When you respect and value your team, they give their best." One day, Martha received an unexpected phone call. "Hello, the Royal Majestic Hotel. Martha speaking." "Martha Higgins?" "Yes, speaking. This is the National Hotel Association. We would like to invite you to be a speaker at our annual conference." Martha couldn't believe it. "Speaker? About what?" "About humanized management in hospitality. Your story has become a successful case study known throughout the country." "My story?" "Yes. The transformation you promoted at the hotel has become a national example of how to overcome management crises through ethical leadership." Martha accepted the invitation, still not fully believing it. A few weeks later, she was in an auditorium with over 500 industry professionals telling her story. "A year ago, I was a housekeeper who was unfairly fired. Today, I am here speaking to you as the manager of one of the most respected hotels in New York City. How was that possible?" She paused, looking at the attentive audience. "It was possible because someone believed in me when I no longer believed in myself." It was possible because I learned that leadership isn't about title, but about character. The talk was an absolute success. Several industry executives approached to learn more about her management methods. One of them, owner of a hotel chain in Chicago, made an unexpected proposal. "Martha, I would like to invite you to be a consultant in hotel management for our chain. What do you think?" It was an opportunity to expand her professional horizons, but Martha needed to talk to Eleanor first. "Mrs. Eleanor, I received a proposal to work as a consultant in Chicago." "What kind of proposal?" Martha explained the details. Eleanor listened carefully. "Martha, this is a unique opportunity for you. You can't refuse it. But what about the hotel here? The hotel will be in good hands. You've already trained an excellent team. And besides, you can work as a consultant and keep supervising the hotel remotely." It was a tempting proposal, but Martha had concerns. "Mrs. Eleanor, I'm afraid I can't handle it. It's too much responsibility." "Martha, you turned a struggling hotel into a nationally recognized success story. Of course you can handle it." After much thought, Martha decided to accept the proposal. She would start working part-time as a consultant, keeping her role at the Royal Majestic Hotel. Her first assignment was to evaluate a hotel in Chicago that was having serious management problems. When she arrived, she found a situation very similar to what she had experienced: unmotivated employees, high turnover, authoritarian management. The hotel owner, Mr. John Abbott, received her with skepticism. "Martha, with all due respect, but you're very young. Do you have enough experience to solve our problems?" "Mr. John, experience isn't measured only by age. Sometimes those who have lived through the problems in practice understand better how to solve them." She spent a week observing the hotel's operations, talking to employees at all levels, analyzing procedures. She discovered that the local manager, very much like Derek, created an environment of fear and destructive competition among the staff. The housekeepers were afraid to report problems. The front desk clerks hid guest complaints. "Mr. John, your hotel's problem isn't operational, it's leadership." "What do you mean?" "Your manager rules by fear. That might work in the short term, but in the long run it destroys service quality and team motivation." Martha presented a detailed report with her observations and recommendations. She suggested changes in management, training programs, and a new internal communication system. "But that's going to cost a lot," the owner complained. "Mr. John, how much are you losing from high employee turnover? From guest complaints, from low occupancy?" When he calculated, he realized that the investment in improvements would be much less than the current losses. "All right, Martha, let's implement your suggestions." The transformation took a few months, but the results showed. The organizational climate improved, complaints decreased, occupancy increased. The success in Chicago opened other opportunities. Soon Martha was being invited to work in hotels in Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Charleston. In less than 2 years, she had become one of the most respected hotel management consultants in the country. Her personal story, from housekeeper to nationally recognized expert, became an inspiration for many professionals. But what made her happiest was seeing the transformation in the lives of the people who worked in the hotels she helped reshape. In Charleston, for example, she met a housekeeper named Mercy, who was being harassed by an incompetent supervisor. "Mercy, have you ever thought about studying management?" "Studying, Mrs. Martha? I barely finished high school." "So what? I started college at 43. It's never too late to learn." Martha secured a scholarship for Mercy, who a few years later became the housekeeping supervisor at the same hotel where she was being harassed. In New Orleans, she helped a young front desk clerk develop his leadership skills. He is now a manager at a resort in the area. "Martha," Eleanor said during one of their conversations, "do you realize the impact you're having on people's lives?" "Yes, I do, Mrs. Eleanor, and that makes me very happy." "Have you ever thought about writing a book about your experiences?" "A book? Me?" "Of course. Your story can inspire thousands of people going through similar situations." The idea of the book stirred Martha. For months she worked in her spare time writing about her journey. She told about the humiliation, the struggle to clear her name, the discovery of her leadership talents. The book From Maid to Consultant, A Journey of Overcoming, was launched 2 years later and became a bestseller. Martha started receiving invitations to speak at universities, companies, and corporate events. During one of these talks at Metropolitan State University, a young student raised her hand. "Professor Higgins, what was the hardest moment in your journey?" Martha thought for a moment. "It was when I was leaving the hotel, after being humiliated and fired. In that moment, I felt like my life was over, that I would never be able to work anywhere again." "And what made you keep going?" "My daughter. I couldn't give up because she depended on me. But I also discovered something important. Our biggest defeats can turn into our biggest victories if we have the courage to fight." After the talk, the student approached. "Professor, my mother is a maid at a hotel here in New York City. She always feels belittled because of her job. Can I give her your book?" "Of course, dear, and tell her that there is no small job. There are small people. Your mother is an important person regardless of the role she plays." Moments like this reminded Martha why she had chosen to share her story. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about giving hope to those going through similar struggles. On one of her business trips, Martha passed through Brooklyn Heights and decided to visit the hotel where it all began. When she walked into the lobby, she was greeted with smiles and hugs from employees who still worked there. "Martha," shouted Rachel, running to hug her. "I've missed you so much." "Hi, Rachel. How are things around here?" "Very good. The hotel is always full. Guests always praise the service. All thanks to what you implemented here." Martha walked through the hallways where she had worked as a maid. She saw new, young employees who didn't know her story. To them, she was just a famous consultant visiting the hotel. But Dolores, who still worked there, made a point of telling everyone. "Guys, do you know who this woman is? She is Martha Higgins, the maid who became our boss and then became famous all over the country." The young employees were impressed. "Really? You worked here as a maid?" "I did, for 15 years. And they were the best years of my professional life because they taught me everything I know today." That evening, Eleanor invited Martha to her home for dinner. It was a tradition whenever she came back to New York City. "Martha, have you ever stopped to think about everything that happened in the last 5 years?" "I think about it all the time, Mrs. Eleanor. Sometimes it feels like a dream." "It's not a dream. It's the result of your hard work and your character." "Mrs. Eleanor, can I ask you something I've always been curious about?" "Of course. Why did you help me that day? You didn't even know me." Eleanor smiled and was silent for a few seconds. "Martha, can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" "Sure." "My mother was a maid for 40 years. She worked in hotels, in private homes, always with dignity and honesty. When I saw you being humiliated like that, I remembered her." Martha was moved. "Is your mother still alive?" "No, she passed away 10 years ago. But I'm sure she would be proud to know that I helped a maid turn her life around." "Mrs. Eleanor, you changed much more than just my life. You taught me that there is always a way to bounce back." That night, Martha went home thinking about how much her life had changed. Chloe was in her final year of medical school, fulfilling her dream of becoming a cardiologist. The small apartment in Brooklyn Heights had been traded for a comfortable house in Century City. But what made her happiest wasn't the material achievements. It was knowing that her story was inspiring other people to never give up on their dreams. The next day, she received an email that deeply moved her. "Dear Martha, my name is Anne Marie. I am a housekeeper in Washington, D.C. I read your book and wanted to thank you. I was going through a situation similar to yours, being harassed by the manager of the hotel where I work. Your story gave me the courage to report the abuse and fight for my rights. Today I got a promotion, and I'm studying tourism in college. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Anne Marie Abbott." Messages like this arrived every week. Martha made a point of personally replying to each one, offering words of encouragement and, when possible, practical help. 2 years later, Martha received a special invitation. The Department of Tourism wanted to appoint her to a National Council for Professional Qualifications in the hotel industry. "Martha," said the minister during the meeting, Your journey represents the best of the Brazilian tourism sector. We want your experience to develop policies that value tourism professionals." It was an enormous responsibility, but Martha accepted. Now she would have the opportunity to influence public policies that could improve the lives of thousands of workers in the industry. Her first proposal was to create a national training program for hotel employees with a special focus on leadership development for operational positions. "Minister," Martha explained, "often the best leaders are in the most basic positions. We need to give these people the opportunity to develop." The program was approved and implemented nationwide. Within 5 years, more than 10,000 hotel employees had participated in the courses, and hundreds achieved significant promotions. Martha also created a mentorship program where experienced professionals guided young talents in the industry. She herself mentored at least 5 people a year. One of her mentees was Julia, a young front desk clerk from New Orleans who dreamed of owning her own hotel. "Martha, will I ever be able to have my own business?" "Julia, if you have determination and competence, you certainly will. The important thing is to never stop learning and always treat people well." 3 years later, Julia opened a charming inn on the beach in Outer Banks, which became a benchmark for hospitality in the region. Stories like Julia's multiplied across the country. Martha had created a network of professionals who shared her values of ethics, competence, and human appreciation. In 2029, 10 years after being fired from the Royal Majestic Hotel, Martha received the highest honor in the Brazilian tourism sector, the National Award for Excellence in Tourism. The ceremony took place in Washington, D.C., with the presence of ministers, business owners, and professionals from across the country. Eleanor made sure to be there, as did Chloe, now a trained cardiologist. "Martha Higgins," said the minister during the ceremony, "represents the best of the Brazilian character, the ability to turn adversity into opportunity, to use knowledge to help others, to lead by example." When Martha stepped onto the stage to receive the award, the audience rose in prolonged applause. She looked at the crowd and saw familiar faces from her journey, employees she had helped, business owners who had become partners, students who had been inspired by her story. "10 years ago," Martha said into the microphone, "I was a housekeeper who was unfairly fired. Today, I am here receiving this award, which represents not only my journey but that of all Brazilian workers who never give up fighting." She paused, controlling her emotions. "This award is not mine. It's about every housekeeper who works with dignity, every front desk clerk who treats guests well, every employee who gives their best every day." The applause was deafening. In the audience, Eleanor was crying with emotion, remembering the broken woman she had found in that hotel hallway 10 years earlier. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, Martha was approached by a young journalist. "Martha, what's the secret to your success?" "There's no secret. There's hard work, honesty, and above all, the belief that you can always start over." "But don't you feel anger toward the people who wronged you?" "I did once, but I learned that anger only diminishes us. I prefer to use my energy to build good things." "And what's your next project?" Martha smiled. "I'm writing my second book. This one will be about female leadership in the tourism industry, and I'm also finalizing plans to open a hotel school focused on low-income people." "A school?" "Yes, I want to give other people the opportunities I had. Show them that it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you want to go." The hotel school opened 2 years later in New York City. It offered free professional training courses for people in socially vulnerable situations. On opening day, hundreds of people signed up. Among them was a 50-year-old woman named Shirley, who had lost her job as a housekeeper during the pandemic. "Professor Martha," Shirley said with tears in her eyes, "I thought my professional life was over. You're giving me a second chance." "Shirley," Martha replied, "you're not getting a chance. You're earning an opportunity through the courage of being here." The school became a national model. In 5 years, it trained more than 2,000 professionals with a 95% employment rate. Many of the graduates started their own businesses, inns, restaurants, travel agencies. Others became managers at large hotels and resorts. Martha made a point of following each student's journey. She created a mentorship program that lasted 2 years after graduation, helping with the professional transition. In 2032, at age 55, Martha decided it was time for a new phase. She sold her consulting firm and dedicated herself fully to the school and social work. Chloe, now a specialist in pediatric cardiology, decided to join her mother in the social project. "Mum, how about we create a free medical care program for the school students?" "Sweetheart, that's a wonderful idea. Taking care of people's health is just as important as taking care of their professional training." Mother and daughter worked together to expand the social project. In addition to the hotel school, they created a community health center and an adult literacy program. The project grew so much that it attracted international attention. UNESCO invited Martha to present her vocational education methodology at a world conference on poverty eradication. "Martha," said the UNESCO representative, "your project is a model of how education can transform lives and communities." The lecture at UNESCO was broadcast live to over 100 countries. Martha spoke about her personal journey and how quality vocational education can break cycles of poverty. "It's not enough to teach a trade," she told the international audience. "You have to teach dignity, self-esteem, and leadership. You have to show people that they are capable of much more than they imagine." After the lecture, several countries expressed interest in replicating Martha's school model. She spent the following year traveling the world, helping implement similar projects in Mexico, Colombia, Portugal, and Cape Verde. In each country, she adapted the methodology to the local reality, but kept the fundamental principles: quality education, human value, and leadership development. During a visit to Portugal, Martha met Maria, a Brazilian immigrant who worked as a housekeeper in Lisbon. "Martha," said Maria, "I read your book and felt very inspired, but here in Portugal it's hard to find growth opportunities." "Maria, opportunities sometimes need to be created. How about starting a study group with other Brazilian women working in the industry?" Martha's suggestion led to the creation of the first association of Brazilian tourism professionals in Portugal. Maria became the president of the association and today is the manager of a hotel in Porto. Back in Brazil, Martha decided it was time to record her experiences in a second book. Lead to Serve, Lessons from a Journey of Transformation, was published in 2034 and became required reading in several business and tourism courses. The book not only told her personal story, but also the stories of hundreds of people she had helped over the years. It was a portrait of how small actions can generate big transformations. One of the stories that most moved readers was that of Pedro, a young man from a slum in New York City who became the manager of a 5-star resort in Newport. "Martha," wrote Pedro in the book's preface, "you taught me that my zip code doesn't determine my destiny, that with education, effort, and opportunity, anyone can get wherever they want." The success of the second book brought new invitations for Martha. American and European universities wanted her to give lectures on leadership and social transformation, but she preferred to keep working at the grassroots level, directly with the people who needed opportunities. "Chloe," she said to her daughter, "I don't want to become famous talking about transformation. I want to keep making transformation happen." In 2035, 25 years after starting as a housekeeper at the Royal Majestic Hotel, Martha was invited to be the keynote speaker at the graduation of the first class of hotel management at Metropolitan State University, which included students from her social school. Among the graduates was Luke, son of one of the housekeepers Martha had met in her early years of work. He graduated as the top student of the class. "Professor Martha," said Luke during the ceremony, "my mother always spoke of you as a role model. Today I understand why." That night, after the ceremony, Martha walked alone along Brooklyn Heights Beach. She stopped in front of the hotel where it all began and watched the movement of guests and staff. She thought about everything she had experienced, the humiliation, the struggle, the victories, the people she had helped and who had helped her. She thought about Eleanor, who had passed away 2 years before, but not before seeing the immense social impact that her decision to help a housekeeper had generated. She thought about Chloe, now head of pediatric cardiology at a public hospital, saving the lives of underprivileged children. She thought about the thousands of students who had already passed through her school. Martha smiled. At 58, she felt that her life had a clear purpose, to show the world that every person has value and potential, regardless of their origin or current situation. The next day, she returned to work at the school, as she had done every day for over a decade. At the entrance, she greeted Shirley, the former housekeeper who was now the school's pedagogical coordinator. "Good morning, Professor. How was the graduation yesterday?" "It was beautiful, Shirley. Seeing those young people graduate reminds me why we do all this." "Professor, we received 50 more applications for the next course." "How wonderful. Let's prepare everything to welcome them in the best way." As she walked through the school hallways, Martha greeted every staff member by name, asked about their families, and genuinely took an interest in their lives. She was the same humble and caring person she had been when working as a housekeeper. The difference was that now she had the power to transform lives, and she used that power every day. In the classroom, while explaining management concepts to a class of 40 students from underprivileged communities, Martha saw in their eyes the same hunger for growth she had felt years ago. "Everyone," she said to the class, "you're here because you decided you want a better life. That decision already shows you have the most important quality for success: courage." A student raised his hand. "Teacher, do you really believe people like us can go far?" Martha looked directly at him. "I don't believe I am certain, because I was exactly like you. And if I made it, you'll make it too." The class continued with renewed energy. The students asked questions, participated actively, and dreamed big about their futures. At the end of the day, when the last student had left, Martha stayed a few minutes alone at the school. She looked at the photos on the wall, hundreds of former students who had built solid careers in tourism. There was Julia, now owner of 3 inns in Chera; Pedro, resort manager; Anne-Marie, who became a supervisor in Washington, D.C. Dozens of other smiling faces of people who had transformed their lives through education. Martha picked up her phone and called Chloe. "Hi, honey. How was your day?" "Good, Mum. We operated on 3 children today, all successfully. And your day?" "I received 50 more applications for the next course. Our waiting list already has over 200 people." "Mum, have you thought about expanding the school?" "I think about it every day, honey, but I want to maintain quality. I'd rather train 50 people well at a time than train 200 poorly." It was this attention to detail and focus on quality that had made Martha's school a national reference in professional education. That night at home, Martha sat down to write in her journal, a habit she had kept since the difficult days after her dismissal. "Dear Journal, today I completed another day on the mission of transforming lives through education. Every student who passes through our school takes with them not only technical knowledge, but mainly the certainty that they are capable of achieving their dreams. Sometimes people ask me if I'm not angry at Derek, who unjustly fired me so many years ago. The answer is no. Actually, I'm grateful to him because it was through that injustice that I discovered my true calling, helping others discover their potential. If I hadn't been fired, I'd probably still be a housekeeper, limited by my own beliefs about what was possible. The humiliation forced me to step out of my comfort zone and fight for something greater. Today I understand that there is no failure, only redirection, that every difficulty carries a lesson, that every fall is an opportunity to get back up stronger. My life proves that it doesn't matter where you come from or what was done to you. What matters is what you choose to do with your story." Martha, end of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story. How about sharing where you're watching us from? If our journey alongside Martha touched your heart, leave a comment telling us your opinion. Do you believe anyone can turn things around like she did? Leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.